Christians are a bigger threat to America than Al-Qaeda. Christians are the number one terrorist threat to America, apparently, says James Carville. Welcome back to Cooper Stuff. We got a bonus episode because this is so brilliant to show you what is happening. I have to comment it. We have a small video clip, but from this small video clip, we could do 2 hours on this, and it proves so much of what we have been talking about on Cooper Stuff. All right, so let's jump into this. James Carville, who is a Democratic political strategist, I think he worked for Bill Clinton, very, very important guy. In other words, this isn't a nobody. This is not some kind of rando that said something crazy on the interwebs and now we're all talking about it. This is a very important figure, and I want to show you this clip because it's on Bill Maher, and it's also important, but let me tell you the reason it's important. Number one, it's Bill Maher. I've told you on the show, Bill Maher in the last few years has begun saying things. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I agree with that. You sound like you're on our side on this, which is really weird because he's kind of against the woke stuff now. Now, this is super interesting. Bill Maher is not a Christian. He's an atheist. In fact, as I said on my show, whenever I've said, hey, Bill Maher said something I agree with, this is totally true. But I've told you guys, Bill Maher makes fun of religious people all the time. He really thinks that Christianity is bad. Christianity is not a good thing to Bill Maher. So he's going to dog Christianity. Then he has James Carville, and James Carville is speaking about Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is the new Republican Speaker of the House. I don't know Mike Johnson. I don't know much about him. All this stuff had been going on the last few months in the House because the Republicans, they were doing a bunch of crazy stuff, and they got rid of McCarthy. They were trying to get other people, and they were voting on them. It wasn't going good. We ended up with this guy called Mike Johnson, who I will be honest, I just don't know much about him, and I haven't been keeping up because, as you know, I've been promoting a little thing called Wimpy, Weak, and Woke. So I've been so busy, I really hadn't had much time to do it. So what I'm going to say isn't even about defending Mike Johnson, who I really don't know much about. You guys, this is so very important. Number one, I want to say this to the Christian people who might not love Cooper Stuff who are watching. To the Christian people who might be like, I sometimes agree, but John, you just sound like an alarmist. This episode is for you. It's going to be short. It's a bonus episode. It's going to blow your mind because it's so simple and so profound. It illustrates what we've been talking about. You have to understand. I've been saying it. I wrote it in my book. As you know, there's a war against America. The war against America, for all the pious Christians out there who are my brothers and sisters that say, John, I don't care about this war against America. It's not about politics. What I want to say to you is this. Listen, it's going to be good. The war against America matters because it actually is a war against Christianity. John, are you saying that Christianity and America are synonymous? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this. There's a war against American ideas. Where do those ideas come from? They are a part of Western civilization. They are the ideas, the foundational concepts, principles that built the West. Where do those principles come from? They come from Christianity. They come from the Bible. There's no denying that. And what I keep telling you guys is what we are in the midst of right now, which is one of the reasons that I'm speaking about a lot of these moral issues, is not a war against Republicans and Democrats. I've been telling you that. That's not what's going on. This isn't about, people that just love conservatism and people that are like, no, I'm more liberal than that. I don't like those tax codes. You're not doing enough about race relations. That's not what's going on. It's just not. This is a battle between Western civilization, which is which was built on the principles of the Bible, and people who say, actually, I think the principles of the Bible are really bad. They got to go. They're hurting people. They make people suffer. It's the Bible that is oppressive. And if you don't believe me yet, you're going to hear it at the very beginning of this clip that I'm going to play for you. So I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to go to my website, johnlcooper.com. You need to get this book, Wimpy, Weak, and Woke. it's going to explain what is actually happening in the world right now. You might need to go and get it as a gift, a Christmas gift for somebody. People keep saying, John, who's the number one audience you get to? You don't have to be religious to read it. You could be Christian. You could be not Christian. You could be conservative or progressive to read it. Who's the one person I really, really want to read it? I'll tell you who I really want to read it. It's the Christians who I know are my brothers and sisters in Christ, who repeatedly think that people like me are mean and our tone is bad and we are alarmists and we are too political and we're making too much of a big deal about America and we don't think there's a difference between America and the kingdom of God. That's who needs to read this book, because then you're going to see that it's not actually alarmist. And I'll tell you what, in this very short episode today, you're going to see it for yourself. Let's go to the clip. Again, this is Bill Maher. The guy talking, he's asked the question. His name is James Carville. He's not a nobody. He's not a rando. He's not some random dude, okay? Listen to what they have to say about Mike Johnson, who's the new Speaker of the House. And by the way, Mike Johnson's a Christian. I don't know much about him, but he's an outspoken Christian. It sounds to me, again, it sounds to me. I'm not defending him on everything because I just don't know the guy. I've had time to read. But the things I've read, I'm like, I actually agree with that. I don't know to what extent we agree, but we agree on Christianity, and we agree that this country was built on the foundations of Christianity, and so therefore Christians should have a voice into what's going on. It's obvious. So listen to this clip, and then we're going to talk about it.
Mike Johnson, he's from your home state of Louisiana, the Speaker of the House. I read today he wrote a foreword in a book that subscribes to conspiracy theories and homophobic insults. I thought, Mike Johnson wrote the foreword to the Bible? Do you think Mike Johnson can hold his party together now that he has taken the mantle?
First of all, I don't think he can hold his party together. Second of all, you're exactly right. Mike Johnson and what he believes is one of the greatest threats we have today to the United States. I promise you, I know these people.
You're talking about Christian nationalism.
Absolutely. This is a bigger threat than Al-Qaeda to this country. And let me tell you something. They have Speaker of the House. They got probably at least 2 Supreme Court justices, maybe more. Right? Don't kid yourself. And people in the press have no idea who this guy is, how he was formed, what the threat is, and this is a fundamental threat to the United States. It is a fundamental. They don't believe in the Constitution. They'll tell you that. Mike Johnson himself says, "What is democracy but 2 wolves and a lamb having lunch?" That's what they really, really, really believe. And to say, "Oh, come on, man, that's just some crazy." No, they believe that, and they're coming, and they've been doing it forever. They're funded. They're relentless. And, they probably won't win for a while, but they might. And if they do, the whole country blows the gas.
Okay, we got to unpack this. This is absolutely amazing stuff. Christianity is a bigger threat to America than Al-Qaeda. Now, you might be saying, John, you're not being fair. He didn't say Christianity. He said Christian nationalism. Well, as you're going to find out, as I read you the article, as we talk about it, all that they mean by Christian nationalists, I've been telling you this, and you're going to believe it after this episode, all that they mean by Christian nationalists are traditional Christians. That's it. That's all that they mean. They don't mean that you have to, that you want to create a theocracy or some sort of thing where now there is no difference between church and state, and now, ministers, the pastors become, also the police force or something like that, some melding of church. That's not what they mean. The way they define Christian nationalists is merely traditional Christians. I'm going to explain that in a second, and then you're going to see it, and you're going to be like, okay, John's right. Point number 1, did you notice Bill Maher, Bill Maher says he's anti-woke. He goes off on woke stuff all the time. He's gone off on the college kids for supporting Hamas. He has said himself the same thing I've said on my podcast, even though I said it first, because we're the best show on earth. It's true. Don't act like it's not. he has said, hey, all this Israel, Hamas stuff, he's like, all this is about the oppressors and the oppressed. He himself has now said that the colleges are woke and they're a problem. Stop sending your kids there because they are indoctrinating them into Marxism. Wait a minute, who else says that? I say it, and I say it in my book. So we agree on that. It's just that Bill Maher didn't used to say that. Bill Maher was part of the problem that gave us what we're in now today. I'm not going to go back and show the clip, but just 4 years ago, he was berating Dennis Prager on a show as Dennis Prager was talking about transgender ideology and what it was going to do. Bill Maher was making fun of him. This is only 4 years ago. 2019, Dennis Prager was on the show, and Dennis Prager was saying, well, all that I'm saying is that you cannot say that men can menstruate. Bill Maher is making fun of him. The whole audience is making fun of him. Bill Maher is saying, Dennis, nobody says that. No one believes that. You're making it up. You're being alarmist. You're being extreme. You used to be reasonable. Now you've lost your mind. You're some right-wing kook. That was 4 years ago. Now people lose their jobs if they say something like that. And now Bill Maher is on Dennis Prager's side. He hadn't apologized. He hasn't said, oh, sorry. In other words, the same guy that says he's anti-woke and he's anti all the changing all of the institutions of society in order to say that there's no difference between men and women. That would be things like biological men playing in women's sports. Bill Maher's against all of those things. But A, he didn't used to be. B, he's part of the reason that God is here. C, as you just saw as the clip began, as he's talking about a book, this book that's like, really, really evil and terrible and quote unquote homophobic, as he says. He goes, oh yeah, you mean the Bible? So in other words, if he is going to be consistent with his own beliefs, then he can't claim to be the anti-woke person that he claims to be. Either way, that's point number one. So we jump into it. I'm going to read this. This is from Newsweek. Newsweek is covering James Carville's statements. So here we go. The name of the article, if you want to read it, is Political Strategists' Dire Warning About Mike Johnson. So you can go read it for yourself. So here we are. James Carville. After Johnson, a Louisiana Republican, was elected as Speaker in late October, questions arose about his political past. He has been accused of having strong ties to Christian nationalism, a movement that believes the United States is a solely Christian nation and that its laws and government should be focused on the religion's values. Most recently, it was revealed that Johnson wrote the foreword of a book published in 2022 titled The Revivalist Manifesto. I have no idea what that book is, never read it, never heard of it. That contained homophobic insults and discredited conspiracy theories, blah, 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 blah. All right, during a Friday appearance of HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, Carville said, Mike Johnson and what he believes is one of the greatest threats we have to date to the United States. One of the greatest threats we have to date. All right. Can you think of the greatest threats we've had to date? We had World War I, we had World War II, we had the Civil War. Hello. So the institution of slavery, which was a pretty big threat to the United States, whether we were going to remain a union or not. Hello, that's pretty big. World War II, Nazi Germany, pretty big threat to the United States. Hello. September 11. Hello, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all the crazy things happening, pretty big threats, but nothing like Mike Johnson, because he believes that this nation was founded on Christian values, which is an undeniable fact. You cannot discredit that. It's an impossibility to do so, in my opinion. So here we go. The greatest threats we have to date to the United States. I promise you, I know these people, Carville said. Bill Maher chimes in. You're talking about Christian nationalism? Absolutely. This is a bigger threat than Al-Qaeda. Carville said that Christian nationalism has not only infiltrated Congress, but also the Supreme Court. Now, here we go. Now we're about to jump into this. They got the Speaker of the House. They got at least 2 Supreme Court justices, maybe more. All right, so what are they talking about? They're talking about when Trump was in office, he got 2 Supreme Court justices. This is a bigger threat to the country. Listen to this. They're funded. They're relentless. They probably won't win for a while, but they might, blah, blah, blah. Carville did not specifically mention which justices he was referring to. The court, meanwhile, has been criticized by some in recent years for being conservative-leaning, especially after its decision last year to overturn 1973 decision Roe v. Wade that legalized abortion nationwide. Now listen, everybody. Here's the key. Listen to this. This was seen as a major win for who? For Christian nationalists. I tell you guys, when they talk about Christian nationalism, they don't actually mean that anybody believes that these people are going to institute Christianity as like the national religion, meaning like if you lived on the Gaza Strip, just to use something that's pertinent, if you live in the Gaza Strip, there is a national religion of Islam. You cannot openly worship Yahweh as a Jew. You can't do that. That is against the law. You can't go there and openly do a bunch of big things for some other religion. It is a national religion, all right? So it's a Muslim nation. Nobody's trying to make Christianity, that I'm aware of, a national religion, and you are not allowed to worship another god in public or something. That is not actually happening. I don't know anybody that wants to do that. That is against the Constitution. And as we're going to see, Mike Johnson likes the Constitution. Now, this is an amazing thing. I got to keep going because we're already running out of time. But they just gave away the game. They overturned Roe v. Wade, and that was a major win for Christian nationalists. There you go. They think that any traditional Christian is a Christian nationalist. If you go, well, John, I don't really think that, I don't really think you've made that point. Well, let me ask you a question. How many times have you heard President Biden say, whenever he talks, he said this when he was talking about Florida. So President Biden was going off on Ron DeSantis in Florida because Ron DeSantis and they were making it illegal for minors to get transgender surgeries. Biden said that is almost, quote, almost sinful because we are all made in the image of God. Let me ask you a question. Where does he get the idea that we're made in the image of God? Who made that up? Is that just a poetic statement? No, it's from the Bible. Why can't you just go and pick and choose something from the Bible if you're President Biden? If you're on the left, you can just choose from the Bible and start saying, this is our policy because the Bible says it. Well, how come they're not Christian nationalists? Stacey Abrams, a progressive Democrat, she was running for office down in Georgia. Stacey Abrams said that it was her Christian faith. She used to be pro-life. Hello, she used to be against abortion. She used to be pro-life, but it was her Christian faith that brought her to the pro-choice position. Like stunningly, but that's a whole conversation we're not going to get into. Apparently, it was the Bible and her Christian faith that made her start saying, you know what? I think that women should have a right on if they're going to end the lives of their unborn children because we're all made in the image of God. Yet she calls other people a Christian nationalist. But wait, she's bringing her beliefs from the Bible, religious beliefs, into her political positions. How come she's not a Christian nationalist? How come you're only a Christian nationalist if you read the Bible and then you go, oh my gosh, I got to stand up for life. I have to stand up for the unborn because of the Bible. How come it's not the other way around? Pete Buttigieg, nobody, maybe besides Mike Huckabee, who's a Christian conservative, besides Mike Huckabee, nobody invokes the Bible more than Pete Buttigieg, who is a progressive liberal, says he's a Christian, he is gay, he's quote unquote married to another man. I've never heard anybody say, why are you such a Christian nationalist? Why are you bringing your religion into politics? Separation of church and state. Never. Not one time have you ever heard somebody say that about Pete Buttigieg. And nobody invokes the Bible more than Pete Buttigieg. So why is he not a Christian nationalist? Because when they say Christian nationalist, all they mean is traditional Christian. It's all that they mean. Now, I want you to notice something. These people are mad. They're mad at the Supreme Court justices that Trump put in, clearly. They keep wanting to change it. You've seen that, right? The left, they want to add justices. They don't like what's happening. Why? Because now the court is conservative leaning. But here's the thing. Hello, when we vote for presidential candidates, right or left, we know that part of what we're voting for is going to be a president that may be putting in a Supreme Court justice that sort of reflects what that president thinks makes a good Supreme Court justice. In other words, every single Christian out there who voted for Trump knew that even the ones who are like, I don't really like Trump. This guy embarrasses me sometimes. I don't like his tweets. He's not necessarily a good person. He says he's a Christian. I don't know about this, but I'm gonna hold my nose and I'm gonna vote for Trump because he might be able to get a Supreme Court justice, and maybe, just maybe, we can end this barbaric thing called abortion. How many people did that? We all know that. That is part of our democratic process in America. So at the same time as James Carville is saying that Johnson, the Republican, is really dangerous, quote unquote, he's really dangerous. He doesn't even believe in democracy. That's what you're going to see. He doesn't even believe in democracy and the Constitution. At the same time he says that, Carville is the one that is mad about the way the system works because he's mad that we've put in these quote unquote extremist Supreme Court people. These people are lying to you all the time. All they want to do is break the system down. Now let's keep reading in here, all right? Because it's going to get better than this. I'm telling you, it's going to get better. Here we go. During Friday's interview, the political strategist pointed out a quote from Johnson that seemed to dismiss, listen, this is so important, to dismiss the idea of democracy in America. The quote comes from a 2016 interview where Johnson talked about how religion influences politics. James Carville just quoted it. In that clip I showed you, James Carville said, he doesn't even believe in democracy. He said that democracy was nothing more than two wolves and a lamb. You heard that, right? You heard it. Let's go back to the article. Johnson said in the interview, which progressive political commentator Brian Cohen shared on X in late October, quote, we don't live in a democracy because democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner. It's not just majority rule. It's a constitutional republic. This is what we got to talk about. I've told you on Cooper's Up, this clip is so amazing. When people say, like James Carville, they don't even believe in democracy. The reason it works is because America now has an incredibly uneducated public. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. That's not actually within question. These people know that they can revolutionize America to build their version of whatever their progressive worldview is. It's usually something for utopia. I wrote about it in my sweet book. This idea of whatever the world they want to build. They need an uneducated public. They need an ignorant public, and they've got it. Christians have decided that it is more pious to not be educated in political philosophy because we're about the kingdom and we don't even need to know about that stuff. Because of that, these people can fool us all the time by saying things like, we got to fight for our democracy. And Trump or the people on the right, they hate democracy. And they know that people go, oh my gosh, this is really bad. Listen, you guys. We are not a democracy. When we talk about American democracy, or if people on the right say our democracy, what they mean is America's unique form of democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Let's just explain it very quickly because I've already gone too long. Democracy, in its definition, is majority rule. One person, one vote. If you have 100 people voting and 51 of them say, hey, I want to vote that women can't drive cars. And if you're a democracy, well, 51 of them say that's what they want. Then that's what happens. It is majority rule. It is mob rule. And what you have is then 51 people putting tyranny onto 49 people. In that little, 100 people vote, 51 of them now impose tyranny on the 49. Boom, might is right. We're the ones that are right. Boom. That's what democracy is. So that's the difference between the French Revolution and the American Revolution. The ideas. They're going for actual pure democracy. 49 of us wanted it, so the rest of you either get in line or you're going to jail. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. We vote on representatives who then go and represent this majority, the population, each of our populations. So we have representatives that go and do that. Then we have all these various safeguards as you already know, right? We have these different branches of the government. We have lots and lots of safeguards so that we don't impose majority rule. Otherwise, what happens is what? New York State has so many people in it, and they have their values in New York State, and people in Mississippi have very, very different values. The things they want is different. You're also talking about an industrialized population versus a farming population or a rural population, those kinds of things. So you don't want New York City saying, these are our values. We've got all the people. Mississippi, you just got to get over it. And you and your farmer, redneckville, blah, blah, blah. And so because we have more people, we're going to impose on you what we want. That's not what America is. And so when this guy says, for one thing, James Carville is a smart guy. He's a very smart man. He's lying. These people just want revolution. That's all they want. They don't care if they're lying or not. He's not dumb. He knows what democracy is. So what does he say? Well, this guy just says that democracy is nothing more than two wolves and a lamb. This guy hates the Constitution. So what Johnson is saying is correct. That is what democracy is. Two wolves and a lamb trying to decide what's for dinner. Who do you think wins? That is sort of like saying New York versus Mississippi. Our system says, no. Mississippi needs to have the same amount of representation as New York does. It doesn't matter if it's a smaller population. It doesn't matter. You can't impose tyranny like that. So we have a lot of safeguards in this country so that our process of change is slow so that you don't enforce this sort of tyranny. Well, James Carville knows that. He's not a dummy. He's not going, oh my gosh, Cooper stuff, you're so smart. I had no idea that's what democracy. He knows what he's saying. Mike Johnson is correct. He says, it's not majority rule. It's a constitutional republic. Now remember, Carville also accused Mike Johnson of hating the Constitution. He said, these people hate the Constitution. So anybody out there saying, John, you don't understand there really are Christian nationalists that hate the Constitution and blah, blah, blah. James Carville is talking about Mike Johnson as the perfect example of a Christian nationalist who is more dangerous to this country than Al-Qaeda. And he says he hates the Constitution. Well, right here, the very quote that Carville is using out of context purposely because he's a lot smarter than me. In the very same quote, Johnson says, it's not majority rule. It's a constitutional republic. It doesn't sound like he hates the Constitution to me. It sounds like what he's saying is, I like the Constitution. I want to keep the Constitution because we're a constitutional republic, not a democracy. These people are lying to you. You also got to remember, these are the same people, James Carville, these people who are constantly wanting, I actually don't know if James Carville has said this personally, but a lot of people on his side, as you know, want to actually get rid of the Electoral College. Why do they want to get rid of Electoral College? Because they believe in majority rule, mob rule. They believe in democracy, not an American-style democracy, not in constitutional republic, not in checks and balances. They believe in democracy a la French Revolution. That's because they're progressive revolutionaries and they're half Marxist. It all comes together and it's brilliant in this one clip. The last thing that Mike Johnson says is this. It's a constitutional republic. And the founders set that up, listen, because, why? Why'd they set that up? Because they followed the biblical admonition on what a civil society is supposed to look like. Now, I ask you this, A, is that true? Did they really set it up like that because they followed a biblical pattern of what a civil society was supposed to do? Meaning representative government where there is not majority rule, mob rule, 51 people, get swords and go after the 49 to impose their will like they did in the French Revolution. All right. Is that true? Yes. Is it true that they got these ideas from the Bible? Yes. No one can, this is amazing. No one can deny that because they're coming up from the Reformationists who clearly, we're talking about John Calvin and the Puritans, who clearly state over and over and over again why they are setting their government up like this. It's because it's covenantalism. It's based on covenant theology from the Old Testament and the way that Israel had a covenant with God. This is so 101. They should know this. James Carville does know this. Why is he saying it? Because he doesn't like it and he wants revolution. And so all that he can do, if you ask James Carville, hey, did the Founding Fathers set it up like this because they were basing it on the Reformers and the Puritans and covenant theology and based on the Old Testament? He would be like, well, yes, of course, that's where they got, that's, largely where they got these ideas from. That and some Enlightenment values, which is fair enough, John Locke and people like that. But then if you went to John Locke and found out where are you getting these ideas from, you'll find out that John Locke would say from the book of Genesis. So they would agree. James Carville knows this. He's not stupid. He's a lot smarter than me, probably a lot smarter than most everybody watching this podcast. James Carville knows this. He wouldn't be able to disagree. Then why is he saying it? Because he wants a revolution. That's what I talk about in my book. You've got to get my book, you guys. Don't waste time. Go get it for somebody for Christmas. They're not trying to have a good faith argument. They just want to win. They don't like what's happening. They want to get rid of our Christian roots and install a new progressive vision of the future. That's what they want to do. So why are they saying things they know is not true? Because they want to win. That's it. This is not a good faith debate. They are not giving you arguments that are logical and consistent and this and it. That is what it is. And furthermore, here's the last thing I want to say. If you believe that the Founding Fathers set up our constitutional republic based on the Bible, as they said, let's just read the quote again. The founders set that up because they followed the biblical admonition on what a civil society is supposed to look like. If you believe that, that makes you a Christian nationalist. I'm telling you, some people say, that's not really what he's talking about. There are people that, okay, fine. Maybe there are truly a few people, I don't know any of them, I don't read any of them, I haven't heard any of them, who actually want to get rid of our system of checks and balances and a president and this and install some sort of Christian, dictator, I guess, like a strong man. Maybe there are those people. I'm not saying they're not. What I'm trying to say is that I don't think there's very many of them, and I don't follow any of them, and I don't think that people really want that. And so I think what is happening is that anybody, as we've said, anybody that wants Roe v. Wade overturned and the evil of abortion gone away with and set in righteous law to save the innocent from slaughter, if that's you, then you're a Christian nationalist. If you say that our constitutional republic was based on a system of government found in the Bible, you're a Christian nationalist. You are a bigger threat to this country than Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all the things that came before it. It's actually genius. So for all the people that say it's so alarmist, they're not saying that. Yes, they are. My question to you is this. Even if you're not like, whoa, go, gung-ho America, July 4th, I love, proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. All right, fine. My question to you is just simply this. Do you think that the system that America is, do you think you'd like that better, or do you think that you would like it better if James Carville or people more radical, because here's what blows my mind. Bill Maher and James Carville are not near the most radical people on the left trying to revolutionize the country. Like I take James Carville over a ton of these people because in some ways he's a little bit more like an old school Democrat who has just gotten a little bit more progressive. He's not AOC, okay? So my question is this. You might not love America, but do you like going to church and not having the government come in and say, actually, you're not allowed to teach that thing on ethics because that now offends people? And in the words of Bill Maher, it's evil, it's oppressive, it's phobic. That's got to go. You're not allowed to do that anymore because it's hate speech. Do you like living in a country where you can go to church and worship God the way you want to worship God? Or do you think you would like it more if James Carville and the people that he's fighting for finally win the battle and get rid of all of us Christian nationalists and disallow us to express our faith into politics? Which one do you think you would like better? And by the way, you might say, oh, you'll still be allowed to talk about God. I mean, for all we know, James Carville might even say he's a Christian. He worked with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton says he was a Christian. Obama says he was a Christian. Stacey Abrams says she's a Christian. John, why are you being... Yeah. They'll let you say you are a Christian as long as what you're fighting for is progressivism and Marxism. Hello, it's the reason that a lot of Christian people, even that say they're Orthodox, even in my world in the Christian music scene, I've talked about some of them on my show. I'm not going to mention their names right now. Christian musicians will always talk, some of these Christian musicians that are blasting Christian nationalism as this great evil because they're all about the kingdom. But yet they're saying, well, when I read my Bible, it says we're supposed to care for the poor. Therefore, I'm into these progressive politics positions that give redistribution and wealth redistribution and socialistic entitlements. But wait a minute, you're saying you got that idea from the Bible. You're bringing your idea into politics too. Yet you can still call me a Christian nationalist. Is that the way it works? So yeah, you'll still be able to be a Christian as long as you do everything the progressive left says they want you to do. And in my view, it becomes unrecognizably Christian. I hope this helps you. I hope this wakes you up. Are you getting it yet? If you think that the Bible has something to say, anything to say about politics, in fact, you say, John, I don't want to get political, but I do think that abortion is really evil. Boom, you're a Christian nationalist. Are you getting it yet? Are you getting that they want you to remain ignorant so that you don't understand the difference between democracy and a constitutional republic? Democracy and American democracy, those are very different things. Are you getting it yet that they want you uneducated and they want to bully you into shutting up? Are you getting it yet that people like Bill Maher might seem like they're on our side, they're anti-woke, but they're the very same people that got us here? Are you getting it yet? I hope you have a great week. Go to my website, johnlcooper.com. Get this book for somebody for Christmas. Peace.
Read the Bible.
Kill myself!